This is a continuation of our reading of John Calvin's Institutes of the Christian Religion. Number 5. The many striking miracles which Moses relates are so many sanctions of the law delivered and the doctrine propounded by him. His being carried up into the mount in a cloud, his remaining there 40 days, separated from human society, his countenance glistening during the promulgation of the law as with meridian effulgence. The lightnings which flashed on every side, the voices and thunderings which echoed in the air, the clang of the trumpet blown by no human mouth, his entrance into the temple while a cloud hid him from the view of the people, the miraculous vindication of his authority by the fearful destruction of Korah, Nathan, and Abiram, and all their impious faction, the stream instantly gushing forth from the rock when struck with his rod, the manna which rained from heaven at his prayer. Did not God by all these proclaim aloud that he was an undoubted prophet? If anyone object that I am taking debatable points for granted, the cavil is easily answered. Moses published all these things in the assembly of the people. How, then, could he possibly impose on the very eyewitnesses of what was done? Is it conceivable that he would have come forward and, while accusing the people of unbelief, obstinacy, ingratitude, and other crimes, have boasted that his doctrine had been confirmed in their own presence by miracles which they never saw? Number 6. For it is also worthy of remark that the miracles which he relates are combined with disagreeable circumstances which must have provoked opposition from the whole body of the people, if there had been the smallest ground for it. Hence it is obvious that they were induced to assent merely because they had been previously convinced by their own experience. But because the fact was to ascribe them to magic, Exodus 9, verse 11, but with what probability is a charge of magic brought against him, who held it in such abhorrence that he ordered every one who would consult soothsayers and magicians to be stoned, Leviticus 20, verse 27. Assuredly no impostor deals in tricks without studying to raise his reputation by amazing the common people. But what does Moses do? By crying out that he and Aaron his brother are nothing, Exodus 16, verse 7, that they merely execute what God has commanded, he clears himself from every approach to suspicion. Again, if the facts are considered in themselves, what kind of incantation could cause manna to rain from heaven every day, and in sufficient quantity to maintain a people, while anyone who gathered more than the appointed measure saw his incredulity divinely punished by it turning to worms? To this we may add that God then suffered his servant to be subjected to so many serious trials that the ungodly cannot now gain anything by their glamour. When, as often happened, the people proudly and petulantly rose up against him, when individuals conspired and attempted to overthrow him, how could any impostors have enabled Clear to leave it free for heathen writers to deny that Moses did perform miracles? The father of lies suggested a calumny, and him to elude their rage. The event plainly shows that by these means his doctrine was attested to all succeeding ages. Number 7. Moreover, it is impossible to deny that he was guided by a prophetic spirit in ascribing the first place to the tribe of Judah in the person of Jacob, especially if we take into view the fact itself as explained by the event. Suppose that Moses was the inventor of the prophecy. Still, after he committed it to writing, 400 years pass away, during which no mention is made of a scepter in the tribe of Judah. After Saul is anointed, the kingly office seems fixed in the tribe of Benjamin, 1 Samuel 11, verse 15, as well as 1 Samuel 16, verse 13. When David is anointed by Samuel, what apparent ground is there for the transference? Who could have looked for a king out of the plebeian family of a herdsman? And out of 7 brothers, who could have thought the honor was destined for the youngest? And then by what means did he afterwards come within reach of the throne? Who dare say that his anointing was regulated by human art or skill or prudence, and was not rather the fulfillment of a divine prophecy? In like manner, do not the predictions, though obscure, of the admission of the Gentiles into the divine covenant, seeing they were not fulfilled till almost 2,000 years after, make it palpable that Moses spoke under divine inspiration? I omit other predictions which so plainly betoken divine revelation that all men of sound mind must see that they were spoken by God. In short, his song itself in Deuteronomy 32 is a bright mirror in which God is manifestly seen. Number 8. In the case of the other prophets, the evidence is even clearer. I will only select a few examples, for it were too tedious to enumerate the whole. Isaiah, in his own day, when the kingdom of Judah was at peace, and had even some ground to confide in the protection of the Chaldeans, spoke of the destruction of the city and the captivity of the people, Isaiah 55, verse 1, supposing it not to be sufficient evidence of divine inspiration to foretell many years before events which at the time seemed fabulous, but which ultimately turned out to be true. Fabulous, but which ultimately turned out to be true. Whence shall it be said that the prophecies which he uttered concerning their return proceeded, if it was not from God? He named Cyrus, by whom the Chaldeans were to be subdued and the people restored to freedom. After the prophet thus spoke, more than 100 years elapsed before Cyrus was born, that being nearly the period which elapsed between the death of the one and the birth of the other. It was impossible at that time to guess that some Cyrus should arise to make war on the Babylonians, and after subduing their powerful monarchy, put an end to the captivity of the children of Israel. Does not this simple, unadorned narrative plainly demonstrate that what Israel spoke was not the conjecture of man, but the undoubted oracle of God? Again, when Jeremiah, a considerable time before the people were led away, assigned 70 years as the period of captivity and fixed their liberation and return, must not his tongue have been guided by the Spirit of God? What effrontery were it to deny that? By these evidences the authority of the prophets is established, and the very thing being fulfilled to which they appeal in support of their credibility. Behold, the former things are come to pass, and new things do I declare. Before they spring forth, I tell you of them. Isaiah 42, verse 9. I say nothing of the argument between Jeremiah and Ezekiel, who, living so far apart and yet prophesying at the same time, harmonize as completely in all they say as if they had mutually dictated the words to one another. What shall I say of Daniel? Did not he deliver prophecies embracing a future period of almost 600 years, as if he had been writing of past events generally known? Daniel chapter 9, etc. If the pious will duly meditate on these things, they will be sufficiently instructed to silence the cavils of the ungodly. The demonstration is too clear to be gainsaid.